Listening to WSCALP Portsmouth Community Radio, 106.1 FM. My name's Shawn Henderson. The name of the show is Stay Tuned. And I'm fortunate enough every week to be joined by talented performers, and they come in and perform live for us. And today, I'm fortunate enough to have James McMurtry himself join me live in the studio. I'm very excited about it. James, welcome.
Good to be here.
It is my pleasure, I got to tell you. I was very excited to hear that you were playing in the area. For one, you're playing up at Jonathan's in a Gunkwit, great little room up there. And then you agreed to come in here. So there you go. It's a double dose. Good for me.
All right.
So I wanted to start. There's so many things I can talk to you about. And there's when I have a songwriter in here, I'm a geek when it comes to songwriters. I just love the way people put words together and create, whether it's in literature or whatever, but or songs. And I just wanted to share an experience with you. When I was reading the Stephen King book, Under the Dome, I'm a big Stephen King fan, yeah. And I know he's a big fan of yours. I've read his review of your different albums in Entertainment Weekly, and you know he's definitely a fan of yours. But when I saw in Under the Dome that he was not only quoting you, but pretty much wrapping the story around the theme of Talking at the Texaco, which is a song off your debut album. I was like, that is so cool.
That's pretty cool, yeah.
How did that, one of the first things I thought was, that's so cool, and his albums are going to just skyrocket through the roof as far as sales go. I don't know if that second part came true.
That didn't happen.
It didn't really. I'm surprised at that, actually.
It did help, for sure.
Did it? Yeah, because I think that people, King has a way when he recommends something that people tend to go out and get it,
yeah.
And especially where I wouldn't say that he created the story around that song. I'm not sure if he did. He might have, actually. But, the whole, it ran through the whole theme of the story, which I thought was amazing. How did you hear about that?
Well, he actually paid me to quote
did.
From the song, which is unusual. I don't think he had to do that, but, but I just said thank you.
Did he call you and ask you, or did he call you and say, this is what I plan on doing? Or
I got an email or a letter through an agent or a accountant. I can't remember exactly.
Mm-hmm. And so that was just, you got paid, and it was like, all right, finally,
that's great.
This music thing's finally paying off.
It rarely happens.
Well, I thought it was a hell of a deal, and I know King he's a big music fan. He's a musician, and he's a big supporter of different musicians. And
he's actually made Bangor into our biggest market.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because he's got a classic rock station.
He does,
there,
yeah.
KIT, and they play our stuff, and and then we can go up there and play the the Grand Auditorium up in Ellsworth, a couple
which
nights
is a beautiful room,
yeah.
And well, that's good. I'm glad that he's put you on the map, and he's put other people on the map too. I know that he's a big fan of many different people. Slade Cleaves is one of a hometown boy here that's sort of gotten the nod.
Alejandro,
love Alejandro as well. Well, that's cool. So I was surprised. I'm surprised that it didn't a million albums
we might
would
have
be
seen a bump, but
but it didn't last. Well, that's cool anyway. I'll talk to him about that next time. Time right now is 1:48. You're performing here in the area. The first time you're performing here in Gunkwit or in southern Maine, I think.
Yeah, it is.
So I think the people around here are going to be excited to have you here, and we're excited to have you in the studio. You do have your guitar in hand.
I do.
Why don't we start off with something and go to whatever you want to talk about after that? How's that?
You might ought to goose that mic a little bit, because seems to be working. The bills are paid, but it makes no difference to the guys that seem to rule our home. The heat shut off for no known reason, and this old building's got a mind of its own. I can tell your footsteps on the stairs from 3 flights up, and I know the jingling of your keys. You won't hear no and you don't look back and you can't slow down. And these days you don't have much to say to me. And in another town, what would fetch a good living? Here's barely hand to mouth. So I'm going out and get a U-Haul trailer and drag it down the turnpike south, where the Garden State gives way to the real world and falls away in the rear view mirror. We'll mend our wounds and wait out the winter down across the Delaware. We get along in a manner of speaking. We rarely have to speak at all. Small talk over takeout pizza, silently passing in the hall. Post-it notes, opposite shifts. Once in a blue moon, we'll wake up in the same room, thankful for these thy many gifts. We run by night, we live it and breathe it with the best of the best, and I just don't care. Gonna mend my wounds and wait out the winter down across the Delaware. And I'll see you in the spring when the chill don't cut so deep. I'll be back around to give this town another crack at me. I heard a voice today I swore I knew, from somewhere down in the southern sticks. And I turned around to see some ragged stranger bumming change on the Uptown 6, and I froze like a stone. Could I ever get that low? Turned my face to the window. There by the grace of God I go, where the Garden State gives way to the real world and falls away in the rearview mirror. I'll mend my wounds and wait out the winter down across the Delaware.
Awesome. Very nice.
Thank you.
James McMurtry, live in the WSCA studios. A song called Down Across the Delaware. You can hear that song on Where'd You Find the Body? Again,
Where'd you hide the body?
Where'd you hide the body? Yeah, so where'd you find it? Where'd you hide it? Sorry about that.
It's all right. Yeah, that was my third record. Don Dixon produced that.
Um,
And the version of that song on it is actually the state-of-the-art recording medium at that time was the Sony Dig machine.
mhm.
And we had two of those things, which was lucky because when we did the first take of that, we did kind of just like as a trial, like 3 months before we made the rest of the record. And it was a pretty good take, except that it moved up about 8 beats per minute from one end to the, and that's just, Dixon didn't mind that, but I didn't care for it. So we came back 3 months later, and we kind of picked a medium tempo in the middle, and started the song again, and then grafted it together, and somehow we got the same sounds 3 months later.
Really?
That we had.
Wow,
Yeah,
good for
was,
you.
It was a wild
That's
deal. But
a little bit of magic in the studios there.
yeah,
There you go.
Just spin those reels back and forth until you found a crossover point.
And how did you end up working with him? How did he end up? Because your first two albums were.
Well,
So that's a different producer than your first two albums. Basically.
Yeah, the first two. Mellencamp produced the first one. Mike Wanchik produced the second one.
Oh, really? I thought John produced the second one as
John
well.
was executive on the second one.
Oh,
had
he
to
was?
approve
Oh,
it,
okay.
But Mike Wanchik was actually a hands-on
Oh,
producer.
okay, gotcha.
But Dixon, I met Dixon on a tour I did. There was a club called the Bottom Line in New York City back then. And they put together a songwriter tour, and they got us a bus and everything. It was the only time I was ever on a tour bus. And the veterans all said that was a good bus. He said, you'll never get a better bus than that, because generally buses smell like diesel and ass and feet after about a week, so, you know. But, but I met Dixon on that run and kind of got to know him a little bit. And
so on an album like that, I mean, we mentioned John Mellencamp, and the first album that you put out, Too Long in the Wasteland, great album, great songs on that album.
Terrible vocal.
Yeah, I know. When I was playing Painting by Numbers,
I can't listen to that.
Yeah.
It sounded like a wounded moose.
So what is it about the vocals? I mean, is it just that you don't feel like you have the power, or you
I
don't?
didn't know how to sing then.
Uh-huh.
I wasn't moving any air at all. I don't know how they mixed that.
And
I smoked about 2 packs a day back then.
Yeah,
so-
that'll limit the airflow as well, I suppose.
Yeah.
Are you cigarette free at this point, or? You
For
just-
some year, about 14 years ago. I
Oh, good
quit
for you,
'cause,
man.
Yeah. Well,
Uh-huh.
I got sick and I had to go on the road. And I figured I could either smoke or I could work. You know,
Uh-huh.
so
And
that's
working always wins out. Well, it doesn't always win out, but well, good for you. That's a good decision on your part. But it's interesting to hear. I mean, I love that album, and I know that it sort of puts you on the map. I think it puts you on the map.
Yeah, I've
Maybe
been on
I
the
don't
map several times.
Yeah.
I crawl on and I slide.
You
back
get on the
up.
map, you
Yes.
slip off. I get it.
Yeah.
But all of those, I mean, I'm a fan anyway. You know, I've been a fan since that first album, really, and been a big fan of your songwriting. I think that those early albums, which I really dug, when you talk about getting back on the map, when Childish Things came out, it kind of, that was I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that was another kind of putting you on the map
Yeah,
type
we
of
got a bump
event.
there from We Can't Make It Here, which kind of rung a lot of bells for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
That one's about to come around again because Joan Baez wanted to sing on it for a record they're doing for Occupy.
Really? Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
Razor and Tie is putting it out, and she got Steve Earle to sing on it, and had C.C. Adcock produce it down in Lafayette, Louisiana. And, so it's a little quicker, a little more modern sounding.
Are you still doing it, or are they doing it?
There's all three of us singing
really?
on it, yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. When's that coming out, do you know?
The last I heard, a street date was May 15th.
Really?
And
That's
it was a
awesome.
huge, like a box set thing. They got like
Yeah.
99 songs on it from, various artists.
Right.
But it's all to support the Occupy movement.
That's fantastic. We actually have a show here called Occupy Radio. A guy named Rick Dirk, who does a fantastic job. It's called Occupy Radio, and he does it Saturday nights.
Well, tell him to talk to Razor and Tie, see if they can get him a copy.
Yeah, because we're always looking for, because he's always saying, you got to get me more music that will tie in with this,
Well, there is a radio-friendly version of We Can't Make It Here off.
You can,
actually,
you can get that on your website, right?
you can get the solo thing, which
acoustic.
is bleeped. I bleeped it because it didn't occur to me anybody would really want to hear that solo thing, but I wanted to get it on the air, and
Right.
so, I ran down to KGSR radio. And of course, this flashed back a few years. This was right before the 2004 elections, and I'm living in Texas. I vote Democratic, which means I don't really have a vote, except for in state elections. Lloyd Doggett, he does a good job, But I was just trying to change a mind or two, so I ran down. I knocked out an acoustic version because I couldn't get the band in the studio for another 2 weeks, and I went down to KGSR, and the morning guy would spin anything I bring him. But I bleeped it for him. I didn't want him to get in trouble.
I appreciate that. I'm sure he does too.
And but I had some pretty mean emails on my website before I even got home that day. I spent it morning drive time.
Really?
Of course, that was 2004. Bush's numbers are soaring, and everybody took that strictly as an anti-Bush song, which it's not. It works just fine now.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, but yeah, it took about a year and a half for it to really turn around.
Turn around where people started
where I
to
got a lot more
appreciate
supportive,
it. Yeah.
response.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, that's what I sort of appreciate about your songwriting. Anyway, it really is. Most of your songs really are about sort of the reality of life. You know, on the darker side, possibly, but at least
Yeah,
you know,
it's
there's
really
not
hard to sell too. People want fantasy. You know?
well, one of the things that I love about it, and I suppose I'm probably guilty as the next guy for being, liking some of those fantastical songs, if that's the case. But what I admire about your songwriting, what I like most about it, what is attracted me, is the fact that it is real, and it's emotional, and it brings me to that place where I go, yeah, either I hear the anger, I hear the frustration, I hear the love, and I hear the openness, whatever it is, but it just seems raw and it seems real. And I think most people appreciate that, but it doesn't have some of the toe tapping stuff that maybe
Some of
gets
them do.
worldwide. Some of them do, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got some great rockin' songs, and but I'm just talking for the wider appeal, possibly.
Yeah, the ones that they seem to hit seize on are my darker pieces.
Do you think? Why do you think that is?
I don't know. You get typecast after a while.
Mm-hmm.
They got to have people have to have some kind of category to put you in.
No, when you say they seize on the dark things, what do you
That's
exactly
what
mean
I've
by
become known for. You know.
Uh-huh. Well, that's interesting. Well, I see now. Whenever I was telling people now, and because of the success of Childish Things and having that song come out, and people that I talk to tend to think more of the political lines.
Yeah,
It's a political songwriter,
which is just a smidgen of what I do.
Absolutely.
That's the weird thing is that turned around and bit me later on because the next record I put out was Just Us Kids,
which is my favorite album of all time of yours, by the way.
But they ran with Cheney's Toy for a first single, which was a terrible mistake, I thought, because nobody's going to identify with that song the way they did We Can't Make It Here, because it's more just sort of a McMurtry's rant,
Right.
But,
That's surprising. That is a great song.
The nature of the popular song is that the listener has to hear his or herself in it, and that wasn't going to happen that time around. But they thought, well, he's a political guy now, so we do the political song.
But if you go back and for the people that had, they were looking for a political song out of that. I think if that's the case, because it really isn't a political album. I don't think any more than any of your others.
No. But mostly, I just try to weave a little bit of politics and social commentary into songs as if it's just normal to talk about.
Right.
It's a better way, I think.
Well, and that's what real life is. Everyone does the
it.
same thing. When they're trying to pay the bills, they talk about they talk about politics if that's the case. Because they can't afford to keep a roof over their
They
head
talk
or
about
something.
the IRS a lot.
Especially this time of
That'd be the
year.
next one.
Some great songs on Just Us Kids, though, and some great piano playing on. Who's the piano player on that album?
On which?
On Just Us Kids.
That's Ian McLagan.
Just phenomenal. I don't know, for some
Yeah,
reason
he
they
did
really.
all the keyboards on that. Yeah. He lives right outside of Austin now.
And do you tend to stick with the same guys in studio and?
Mostly, yeah. I use the guys I work with on the road for a rhythm section.
Just a phenomenal band, definitely. And that album, I can't say enough good things about Just Us Kids. It's a great, absolutely great album.
Is this a Choctaw bingo friendly station?
It sure is.
Yeah, because I wouldn't want the FCC to come down hard on you, if you know what I'm saying.
I appreciate that. Oh, this is good. I'm glad you're playing this song because it's.
Capoed back up now. I got to retune. That's all right. It's a meth head song. It doesn't need to be in tune.
When I first heard this song, I felt like I knew every member of your family.
Nobody in my family's named Slayton.
That was a good question. I mean, that was going to be one of my questions.
Strap them kids and give them a little bit of vodka and a cherry Coke. We're going to Oklahoma to the family reunion for the first time in years it's up at Uncle Slayton's, 'cause he's getting on in years. You know, he no longer travels, but he's still pretty spry. It's not much on talking, he's just too mean to die. And they'll be coming down from Kansas and from West Arkansas. It'll be one great big old party like you never saw. Uncle Slayton's got his Texan pride, back in the thickets with his Asian bride. He's got an Airstream trailer and a Holstein cow. Still makes whiskey 'cause he still knows how. He plays that Choctaw bingo every Friday night. You know, he had to leave Texas, but he won't say why. He owns a quarter section up by Lake Eufaula. Caught a great big old blue cat on a drifting jug line. Sells his hardwood timber to the shipping mill. Cooks that crystal meth because the shine don't sell. He cooks that crystal meth because the shine don't sell. You know, he likes that money, he don't mind the smell. My cousin Roscoe was Slayton's oldest boy from his second marriage up in Illinois. Raised in East St. Louis by his mama's people, where they do things different. Thought he'd just come on down. He's going to Dallas, Texas in a semi-truck called from that big McDonald's. You know, the one that's built up on that great big old bridge across the Will Rogers Turnpike. Took the big cab and exit, stopped and bought a carton of cigarettes at that Indian smoke shop with the big neon smoke rings. And the Cherokee Nation hit Muskogee late that night. Somebody ran the stoplight at the Shawnee bypass. Roscoe tried to miss him, but he didn't quite. Bob and May come up from some little town way down by Lake Texoma, where he coaches football. They were 2A champions now for 2 years running, but he says they won't be this year. No, they won't be this year. And he stopped off in Tushka at that pop knife and gun place, bought a SKS rifle and a couple full cases of that steel core ammo with the buried down primers from some East Block nation that no longer needs them. And a Desert Eagle, that's the one great big old pistol. I mean, 50 caliber made by badass Hebrews, and some surplus traces for that old BAR Slayton. As soon as it gets dark, we're gonna have us a time. We're gonna have us a time. Have us a time. Ruth Ann and Lynn come down from Baxter Springs, and that's one hell-raising town way up in southeastern Kansas. Got a biker bar next to the lingerie store that's got the Rolling Stones lips up there in bright pink neon. And they're right downtown where everyone can see them. And they burn all night, you know, they burn all night, you know, they burn all night. Ruth Ann and Lynn, they wear them cut-off breeches and their skinny little halters, and they second cousins to me. Man, I don't care, I wanna get between them with a great big old heart on like a old boat fist post. You could hang a pipe rail gate from, do some sister twisters till the cows come home, and we'll be having us a time, having us a time. Uncle Slayton's got his Texan pride, back in the thickets with his Asian bride. He's cut that corner pasture into acre lots. He sells them owner financed strictly to them. It's got no kind of credit, 'cause he knows they're slackers and they'll miss that payment. Then he takes it back. He plays that Choctaw bingo every Friday night. He drinks his Johnny Walker at that Club 69. We're gonna strap them kids and give them a little bit of Benadryl and a cherry Coke. We're going to Oklahoma, gonna have us a time, have us a time.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Fantastic, actually. Love that song. Choctaw Bingo is the name of that song. You can hear that off of St. Mary of the Woods.
It's also on Live in Aught 3.
Live in Aught 3, which
And
I don't have.
It's also on the DVD of Live in Europe.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Your live stuff, and great picking, by the way.
Well,
I've always admired you as a guitar player as well, and that just sounded real good. Your live shows, you're performing solo tonight.
Yeah.
Well, actually, this whole week. And you're performing tonight in Gunkwood. I mentioned that once before. You're also performing tomorrow up in Rockland, up in Maine. And then Sunday night, you're back down here in Londonderry, which is right down the road, over at Tupelo. So you're performing, you've got this solo run going through. But when you perform with the band, it's a whole nother experience.
Yeah,
and
it's more a rock and roll thing.
It's definitely a rock thing. And I've always wanted to, what do you gravitate more? Is there one that you gravitate more to? Is there something that you...
Well, for a while there, I did nothing but solos because I couldn't afford a band, and then
Right.
I kind of got put in the folk box for a while, and I couldn't get out of the folk clubs. I couldn't get out in front of bigger rock bands to expand my audience, so I started working strictly with a band for a long time after that. It took a while, and now I'm doing a little more. I'm doing both now because you have to. I mean, the way the music business has kind of crumbled, you have to be a chameleon. And there are people that'll come to those folk houses that won't come to the rock shows, and vice versa.
Right,
So
and I was going to ask that because it seems like you would have, I'm not sure if you would have two different fan bases, but maybe you have three different fan bases. I don't know.
Probably a bunch. I mean, the whole thing now is to bundle as many niches together as you can and call it a career.
Right. Well, the rock shows are phenomenal. Well, I've never seen a rock show, but I've heard the live cuts, which just kill. And but I love the more acoustic, unplugged stuff that you do as well. Which it seems like it would be a different. And I don't know. Tell me if this is true. I would think that it would be a different immersion into the songs. As a songwriter, do you get into the characters a little bit more?
No,
no
difference
difference
at all.
at
You
all.
still have to get the song across one way or another. And a lot of it, it depends on the venue, because sometimes you'll do a solo show in a rock club, and it takes on a kind of a hybrid feel to it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's interesting. I want to get to. I wanted to talk about the characters. That song right there, of course, is a classic. I mean, there's just so many characters in that song, and I wanted to. I whenever I hear that song, I always wonder how did you come up with all these guys?
That was a writing exercise, basically. 'Cause for a while there, it seemed like every tour we did either started or ended going up or coming down Highway 69 through southeast Oklahoma, where we never played at the time. It was years before we ever got a gig in Oklahoma. But we'd always have to go through there, going to St. Louis or going to Kansas City or back. And there was all this weird stuff along the road. And there was a bingo parlor called Choctaw Bingo which is now Choctaw Casino. It covers about 40 acres. It's giant. You don't see the word bingo anywhere. And pretty much everything I put in that song, you know, like the pop knife and gun shop in Tushka, the lingerie store, all that stuff's gone. It was gone within about a year and a half after I wrote the song. Yeah,
wow.
It's weird, but you know, a lot of weirdness has come up in its place. Like, you know, there's
bet.
Red River Rehab, for you know, fits the meter perfectly. Red River Rehab. Yeah.
And that was, I mean, thanks for saying that, because it seems like one of those songs that you could change the lyrics as you go along. And
Well,
I always wondered if
I
you
may
did.
do an expanded 15-minute version of it someday, just to
keep
include
going.
everything that's sprung. I mean, the best of which there's this huge billboard over in Missouri that it's got this baby on it, and it says, "Who's my daddy? DNA testing." I left my phone on somewhere. It's in my jacket. Well, it's all right.
No worries.
That's sort of like the "Don't be cruel" piano ring thing there.
At least it's not something like
Yeah, it'll go off.
Andy
It'll go
or
off in a
something like
minute.
that.
It'll
Wouldn't
have
that
a
be a
message.
surprise, Steve?
Yeah.
Anyway, speaking of characters, because of the characters in your song, that's what I really, another thing that I really like about a lot of your songs. When you, like that, you just came up with, you saw different things and you created the song around it. And I'm sure that like Uncle Slayton and Roscoe and Ruth Ann and Lynn and everyone in that song were just, those are the names that sort of fit into.
Well, one time we played a show in Austin, and this girl came up and showed us her driver's license, and it said Slayton.
Oh, yeah.
And she says, "And I got an Uncle Slayton, and he makes moonshine." And we said, "Well, does he cook speed?" And she says, "No, but some of my other relatives do, and I get it." Okay, honey.
This song's for you.
Such a pretty girl.
That's too bad. Where I was going with that, there's Ruby and Carlos off the new album, off of Just As Kids.
Yeah.
That is one of those songs that, for me anyway, it's such a powerful song. It's so sad. You know, at the end of the song, you're just like, ugh. You feel for both of these people. That's another one of those questions. Is that just a fictional?
Actually, my road manager, Tim, who's sitting out in the lobby here, we came out of a Waffle House somewhere, and some Waffle Houses operate like NASA. Others don't. This is one of those that didn't.
Yeah.
And he got back in the van. He said, "Well, I guess we must have crossed the Mason dumbass line." And I wrote that down and started thinking about, what character would say that. And so I came up with Ruby somehow.
So to me that's fascinating how that could, just coming out of a Waffle House, you come up with two people that I don't know. I can't say that everyone can connect to. It took a while,
and it took a while for the characters to emerge.
How about a song? How about like Alice Walker?
I was kicking that line around for years about too tired to separate the pennies from the trash, which is kind of how it gets in my house because I don't clean for so long that I look at it and it's just overwhelming. So,
I know that feeling.
I can't mess with it. So,
interesting. Well, time right now is 18 past the hour. We're live in the studio with James McMurtry. He's performing tonight up in Jonathan's.
Yeah, you mentioned Ruby. That one actually works pretty good. Send this out to all the equestrians. Ruby said you're getting us in a world of hurt. And down below the Mason dumbass line, the food gets worse. I can't go back to Tennessee. That NASCAR country's not for me. Go on if you think you must. Carlos packed his drums up in the dark of night. Ruby standing just outside the front porch light. Chain smoking Camel straights, the sky off to the east got gray. And he rolled off in a cloud of dust. And the gray coat nickered at the gate. She said, "You're right, it's getting late. You and me got work to do, but can't be burning daylight too." She took down a long lead rope and stayed off of that slippery slope. And the aspen trees were turning gold up top. And the talk was buzzing round the beauty shop. But wasn't he barely half her age? Oh, that's just how they do nowadays. We should all have been so lucky. By spring she'd had the run of the freeborn men, and Ruby turned 50 in a sheep camp tent. And her body still could rock all night, but her heart was closed and locked up tight. Potato fields all muddy and brown, the gossip long since quieted down. And after one more Coggins test, pouring coffee for the county vet, pictures on the icebox door of Carlos in the first Gulf War, black-eyed, brown and youthful face, smiling back from a Saudi base. And then Carlos on the big bay mare, heavier now and longer haired, looking past the saddle shed from way on back inside his head. And the old vet said one day, Rube, that colt'll break an egg in you. Now and then one comes along, you just can't ride. They went on home, and the storm door didn't catch. It blew back hard as she struck a match, but she cupped it just in time. Then she sent the ashtray flying. And holding back the flood just don't do no good. You can't unclench your teeth to howl the way you should. So you curl your lips around the taste of tears and a hollow sound that no one owns but you. No one owns but you. Carlos took the road gig and he saw it through. He rode the tour bus while the singer flew. Managed out of Music Row, Carlos never saw the studio. Session guys had that all sewn up. He looks out the window and it starts to sleet, laying on a friend's couch on Nevada Street. And lately he's been staying high, sick all winter, and they don't know why. They don't know why, they just won't say. They don't talk much down at the VA. And Ruby's in his thoughts sometimes, what thoughts can get out past the wine. He feels her fingers on his brow, and right then he misses how she looked in that gray morning light. She never shaved like they all do now. He sees it all behind his eyes, and his hands go searching, but they come up dry. And halfway in that waking dream, Carlos lets the landline ring. And he'd never have guessed it was Ruby calling, a pin in her hip from the gray coat falling. Figure eights in a lazy lope stumbled on that slippery slope. And holding back the flood just don't do no good. You can't unclench your teeth to howl the way you should. So you curl your lips around the taste of tears and a hollow sound that no one owns but you. No one owns but you.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
James McMurtry live in the WSCA studios. Absolutely fantastic song. And that may be one of my favorite songs. That may be my favorite song of yours, actually.
Thanks, man.
Just absolutely brilliant. Any song that can kind of just, bring that emotion out of me is one of my favorite songs, and that definitely does. Every time I hear it, it's unbelievable. So congratulations
Thank you.
for actually getting in there and being able to do that. It's unbelievable. Time right now is about 25 past the hour almost, and we're live in the studio with James McMurtry. He's performing tonight up in Gunquit. He's got a whole weekend of shows around here. Well, 2 shows around here and then one up in Rockland. Tonight in Gunquit over at Jonathan's, and Sunday over at the Tupelo Music Hall, and he's also performing up in Rockland. You can hit all 3 if you want to travel. I encourage you to hit at least 2. How's that? And that song is off of Just Ask Kids' brand new, well, the newest one, 2008's the release, is other than the reworked song that's going to be on the Occupy CD. Do you have any new stuff that's going to be out? You recording? You looking forward to recording?
There's one I've been putting in the set that it's not FCC friendly at all. But yeah, I've got some new stuff working. I'm hoping to get in the studio with C.C. Adcock at some point later in the year.
Oh, nice. All right,
he's a good producer. I don't want to produce myself anymore for a while.
Yeah. Why is that?
I just run out of tricks that I learned from the producers I worked with in the past, so I kind of need to go back to producer school.
Do you get how are you in the studio when you're trying to produce yourself? Some people get too anal about the whole thing.
No, I'm not that way at all. I just kind of feel my way along, but yeah, there's just a lot of stuff I don't know.
Right. Well, there you go. Well, that's good. When you don't know something, turn it over to someone that does. Yeah. Well, I got to tell you, it's been a pleasure having you here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And good luck with everything. Hopefully, I'll definitely. What's the name of the album? Razor and Tie.
Razor and Tie is the label that's doing the Occupy record.
All right, we'll definitely look into that because we want that here at WSCA. Another question I wanted to ask you: I had a friend of mine, Ed Jurdy, went down to Austin, set himself up a home down there. He lives right up the street here, or used to, and I wanted to see if you had run into him, if you know him, him and the band of Heathens.
Oh, I have run into them. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, is he the bass player?
He's the singer, lead guitar player, one of the guitar players.
The bass player's wife works at one of my favorite restaurants down there.
Yeah. That's a fantastic band down there. And if you hadn't seen them, I encourage you to go.
Yeah, I think we've done some shows with them.
Yeah, they're great, absolutely great. Always got to bring them up because they were, Ed known him for a long time, and he made the decision. I'm going to Austin and doing it, and he did it. So good for him. The same with Slade too. Slade was a main boy going down to Austin and taking over. How is Austin nowadays? I've never been. Everyone tells me that. Well, Ed's father, anyway, who goes down quite a bit, says if you ever go, Shawn, you never come back.
I don't know about that. Yeah. I think it's like nearly 100 degrees there yesterday.
Yeah.
And, but I've noticed. I mean, the last few years they've had a real building boom down there.
Oh yeah.
There's the skyline changes every time we leave town. If we go out for 3 weeks, there's going to be a new building time we get back.
Right.
That kind of thing. But it's still some things are improving. The food's getting better.
It's all about the food.
They did bulldoze my favorite Mexican restaurant on South Congress to make a Marriott, and then Marriott backed out of the deal when the economy tanked.
Really?
So now there's a parking lot full of food trailers where the restaurant used to be.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah, Las Manitas, rest in peace.
Right on. Well, there you go. I don't know if there's any good Mexican restaurants around here.
There's good Mexican food everywhere now because there's Mexicans everywhere. My favorite part about immigration is it improves the food. Because now you can drive coast to coast and not ever have to eat at Denny's because you can find an Indian restaurant with a $6 all-you-can-eat buffet.
Yeah, isn't that the truth, man? I'll tell you. And there's some. Really? I live up in the Kennebunkport area, and there's a town, Biddeford, right nearby, and they had one Mexican restaurant in town, and another one opened up, and it was basically all Mexicans came in and was making these amazing food. Yeah. It was awesome until, I guess, immigration found out and came in and pulled the ball out of there. It was one of the best restaurants in town, and they just
closed the border. Who's going to build their wall if they close the border? I mean, they're talking about. I was up in Canada, and the Canadians were going crazy because we were talking about building a wall along the Canadian border. And my question was, how are you going to get enough Mexican nationals to the Canadian border to build a wall up there?
That's a good point. There you go. Next song. Well, we got. Do you want to do another live thing, or?
I can do one more live, sure.
And then we can
just one of my first ex-drummers had a gig in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. playing in a strip joint from midnight to 6 a.m.
Gig if you can get it.
And I think he was there when Hurricane Andrew came in.
Good song.
The hurricane party's winding down and we're all waiting for the end. And I don't want another drink, I only want that last one again. It gave me such a fine glow, smoky and slow. Now I should probably be homeward bound, but there's no one to talk to when the lines go down. I guess in the morning I'll go looking for my gray-striped cat. My old house can take the weather, so I'm not too concerned about that. It was built to take the wind back in 1910, when this was one damn fine town. But now there's no one to talk to when the lines go down. And the candles flickered on the back bar, and the building was shaking with the wind. I bought a whiskey for the gypsy, and she turned my leather back into skin. Just a fleeting sense of that rare suspense I once thought made the world go round. But now there's no one to talk to when the lines go down. Open up your back screen door, let me see your face once more. My hands are cold and my feet so sore, and I can't go on this way. And the thoughts come too fast and too many to keep count. Let's just let them on through. Now I'm breaking those old glass insulators with my old 22. Off the telephone poles as a $50 rolls across the knuckles of a rodeo clown. There's just no one to talk to when the lines go down. And my one great love, my God, I can feel her still. She ran off to California, now she's living in those Hollywood hills with some bullfrog prince. I have not seen her since, though she calls when he's out of town. And there's no one to talk to when the lines go down. Open up your back screen door, let me in your space once more. I was looking for an easy score, but it just don't work that way. Some insurance man biker is yelling out for one more beer, but a part-time pirate just can't get much respect around here. We got our problems too, man, and we'll get to you in just a minute. Sit your drunk ass down. Yeah, there's no one to talk to when the lines go down. Now there's water up past the wheel wells of my Ford, and I don't guess it'll run. but I left a pack of Winstons on the dash. Could you fetch 'em for me, son? The morning's first cigarette, that's as good as it gets all day. I should know by now that there's no one to talk to when the lines go down.
Very nice indeed. Hurricane Party, the name of that song. James McMurtry, live in the WSCA studios. Absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I really do appreciate your time. I know it's show day, and these things can be a pain in the butt to come into radio shows and
It was a
talk about
short
yourself.
Drive today, and it's right on the way. So
Right on.
no problem.
All right. Well, I appreciate it. I appreciate the effort, and I appreciate everything you do. So thank you so much.
You.
Again, for everyone out there listening, James will be performing tonight up in Ogunquit at Jonathan's. He's performing on Sunday at Tupelo Music Hall right down in Londonderry. That's on Sunday. And if you want to take a ride up to Rockland, which would be a beautiful ride up there tomorrow, you can go see him at the Strand Theater up in Rockland, Maine tomorrow.
Yeah, if you ever get down to Austin, I'm usually at the Continental Club on Wednesdays with my band at midnight.
Well, there you go, and that's well worth the trip right there. So if I ever do get down there, I will definitely check it out for sure. JamesMcMurtry.com if you want to learn more about him. You can look him up on Facebook and all those other social media places. While we were off air, we were talking about which songs James might play, and you had mentioned Red Dress, so I'm going to jump into that if you don't mind.
Not a bit.
Name of the song is called Red Dress. It's off the album St. Mary of the Woods.
That was awesome, guys. Holy crap.